What We Cannot See Pioneers, Season 2, Episode 4. Gyutonoa gathered his men together during downtime. General George had ordered the convoy to set up camp in an enclosed area of the Byacene's lair so the men could rest. While the men were resting and sleeping, Gyutonoa brought together the most important figures in the Minifig Newland Empire. "I can't keep hiding this from you all," Gyutonoa said with his usual nasally voice. His voice always beckoned great respect from his men, even though it lacked deepness and power in it. "I've noticed something after we entered the Byacene's lair, and it could change everything that both the Bionicle and Minifig races know about our existence." Naturally, all of the men were shocked and intrigued. Gyutonoa then pointed backwards into the distance, where some of the chamber they had first walked into was still visible. "I want you all to take a look back there and tell me what you see," Gyutonoa ordered. His men turned and looked. Gyutonoa said, "I mean, really look. Look very carefully. Look at those strange structures. Are they just random shapes? Or do they perhaps resemble furniture?" Gyutonoa saw the eyes of his men bulge after he said that, because they all realized what he said was right. "Furniture?" General George said. "How? How could this all be furniture?" Captain Mike, in a faint whisper-like voice, replied, "If those structures are furniture, then this is a house." Gyutonoa nodded in response. "My good men," Gyutonoa continued, "I do sincerely believe that we are inside a massive house. But I also believe something even more humbling. In the book, Observations of a Strange World, there is one quote that stands out beyond all others to me. It goes like this: 'This world, unlike any other, will remind us all, Bionicle or Minifig, of our supreme insignificance. Our size in comparison to all this furniture, the size of this place, all points to one overriding conclusion. I believe we are all, in fact, toys.'" Of course, this took a while for the other minifigs to process. It was such a monumental concept. Gyutonoa waited patiently for a response from his men, allowing them to absorb the weightiness of this subject. But he had a feeling that the quiet but observant Captain Mike Bates would respond first. He was right. "I think you're correct," Mike said with a sigh. "This is a house we are in, and what we arrogantly called the New Land is nothing more than a backyard to this house." "Well, if this is all true, then what is the Biacene?" Colonel Carlos asked, discouraged at the lack of answers the group had. "It's clearly a part of all of this." "Yes, and if this is a house, where are the owners?" Mike asked. The group froze with horror. Owners? If they were toys, and they were inside a house, the owners were bound to be giants compared to the minifigs and bionicles. If the owners were somewhere inside this house, where were they? What were they? Would they look anything like a minifig or bionicle? And if they were all toys, were they just part of a child's game, not even really alive to begin with? These were the thoughts going through everyone's minds. "That's a terrifying question," Gyutonoa admitted, voicing the fear of everyone around them. "But I have a theory." Everyone around him leaned in to hear him. Gyutonoa said, "I think the Biacene might be the owner." Mike shook his head, said, "I don't think so." Gyutonoa was surprised. He always valued Mike Bates' opinion about things and asked him, "Why not?" Mike replied, "Why would the owner of toys be trying to destroy them all?" Gyutonoa stood back in amazement. He had never even considered that. General George looked at Gyutonoa, then to the rest of the congregation. He then said, "I don't think we'll know what the Biacene is until we find it. And I mean the real Biacene, not these monsters. The group nodded. But Utenoa's idea that the Bionicle and minifig races were nothing but toys was both humiliating and difficult to disprove. Evidence for it existed all around them. The thought of their insignificance echoed through the heads of everyone who had been in that discussion.